Thank you for everybody for joining today for our presentation. I see some users in their crowd that are pretty advanced, and I know you guys are here for moral support, so thank you. Uh, but for today, really, it's for beginner and intermediate users of Revizto, really just applying the foundation of advocating for field team usage for other project team engagement as well within Revizto. Mine particularly has to do with field team engagement. Alex is of pre-con coordination and others as well.
All of the above.
Yes, all the above. So we hope you leave today here with some good knowledge as far as where things are at currently with Revizto. We'll give you a quick download as far as what we see or what we're seeing on the ground with all of our great users, and just sort of helping apply just sort of a push. So if some of you sat in on the Codifying Clash presentation with Jason and Matt, that is I'd like for you to think of it as that's the leading the effort. This now is more of pushing the effort behind, pushing everyone else along with who's in Revizto. With that, just introductions as we go. I'll start going through the slide presentation here. So quick intro about Alex and myself. Of course, we're brothers. We come from a VDC family, actually starting it from our dad here who's in the crowd. And so I'm not sure if any of you here started with Minecraft, Roller Coaster Tycoon, The Sims. Like that's where it all started for us, and then eventually it just turned to Revit. So, so we just have a very people-centric approach around our implementation. I'm sure some of you who've worked with us, you find that very apparent as far as just we make sure that there's a level of implementation that includes the person first. Quick agenda items for today. Of course, we've gone through the intro, but giving everyone sort of a baseline of understanding. You have Revizto. It's probably used in coordination, sort of with what I've seen to start with most projects, and then we begin to branch out from there. So, providing sort of a baseline of understanding as far as, hey, what is Revizto from a beginner sense to more of an advanced sense. So we got 2 live workflows we'll share with that. Mine's the field team engagement one, so we'll go into Revizto, and as well as the equipment tracking lifecycle one. So there'll be both live workflows. We'll talk from the hip a little bit there, but just to sort of get the button clicks going to show you it live. And then best practices and tips and just nice things to have at the end that just sort of best set you up for success as well. So one thing as far as project collaboration is sort of a kind of a statement that a lot of us repeat ourselves with, and I'm sure you've taken that message as well and have shared that internally with your organizations as well. Revizto is a project-first collaboration tool that includes VDC-type features within them. So I think taking that mentality and just sort of growing that as far as there is more to do, there is a transformative environment that is in Revizto and will continue to be. So the ability to understand and develop actions for the users that are in the project with you, how to engage them, understanding what are their needs, and really for us, we can provide, again, what we know in our experience as far as what they do, what other roles do in their shoes, but really beginning to give you the idea of how do your project teams think, how do they approach model information, 2D information, what are their tasks that are involved here as well. So things that I'm sure you're very aware of, but how can you begin taking that and putting it to the street as far as starting with what those workflows look like, advocating the process, and really beginning to get some good buy-in on your projects there. I wanted to provide a quick visual just to sort of start the idea of where these stamps are going. And so I think any of you here can sort of, the range is really from beginner to advanced, and this room I see is sort of a mix of all that, which is great. But it gives you an idea of well, if you find yourself comfortable in Revizto and you gauge your project teams as how they should begin to interact, maybe it's at an entry level where a general issue and a high priority issue are possibly the only 2 stamps that we're applying in, and a little bit more as far as David, are we creating regular issues or stamp issues? And my opinion here is the stamps are the way to go. It pre-configures most information that's already tracking everything from a reporting standpoint once that stamp is created. So any stamp that you're creating or any other project team that is creating a stamp in the project itself is already creating that metric for you to measure against. And as we move more towards intermediate stamps, things get a little bit more advanced. We start looking more, things are as far as punch listing, quantity takeoff, virtual site walks, safety hazards, including new things like our QR code features in there as well. And then moving more into advanced stamps, we begin going to the installation tracking efforts, commissioning statuses, getting other roles into the project, because at the same time, you're thinking advanced, it's also pushing the boundaries as far as who has not been in the model or who's not regularly in the model enough with us. Your commissioners on the project, do you have an opportunity to create an environment where they can benefit of the model to then go off their checklists as well? So that's sort of beginning to provide you the understanding that if you're at that advanced level, you're at that creative level already to know that with what you find isn't as a normal issue or just a normal way to capture an item in the model is you're now at the point where you can begin thinking that what is unique to your projects to start that approach. And into my live workflow here. Sorry if this seems pretty stale, but as far as cutting in from just the approach of how issues are and into our live workflow, I kind of want to sort of provide that maximum for you. Everyone sort of understands here as creating issues. Those issues themselves are observations. That's sort of the baseline is with what we understand. Newer users who are not VDC roles but are engaging with the model itself are at a baseline creating just observations in the project. They're referencing 2D, 3D, and a combination of both information as far as creating the issues they want and being able to capture with what is value on the project as items that could be resolved or is being brought to the project team's attention. But the maximum then is allowing a full-on collaborative effort between project teams. We're deploying an entire workflow. In my case, for the field, as finding a discrepancy. So mine it involves project managers, field teams, self-perform concrete teams, scheduling teams, the owner as well, as including VDC as far as making sure the model information is correct. But really with what we're doing here is we're tracking the concrete pour sequence of this effort. So sort of providing an idea of what's needed here. You need your structural model itself. If you have existing conditions, great, or if you're doing if you're scanning existing conditions or doing scan sequencing, that's better as well. But through that, you have the necessary parts, for lack of a better term, necessary parts to really begin tying these workflows together. So it's sort of a point where you have this information in front of you, and to understand that what's possible shouldn't be done because your project team may not do it. It's a matter of doing it and letting it catch on, really. So that's sort of with what I'll go through here with you. All right, so sort of setting the stage here. Here's our demo project for the example. And see, we have reality capture already set. We have a lab edition, which specifically what this project is. But we're providing, again, the stage for my example, the field teams to come in, our field engineer to come in and to understand where our pours are at, or they're following along as concrete pours are occurring to be able to track the model against. So with that, I've created a quick viewpoint. Viewpoints are the best place to start, in my opinion. As simple as they are, the more viewpoints you create for your teams as a way to start is always the place where the support and the buy-in begins. So by selecting foot sequence here, I have a lot of things happening in the background as far as an appearance that's controlling this view. I have also special statuses that are applied to the model as well that are allowing me to understand the status. And then just to show a better image too with what we're seeing here, just to make it a little bit better, there is an existing scan as well. So and then we have a better idea to understand that, okay, this is an addition. We do see with where the current structure is at and where we're actually pouring now. So some more context to also provide for your teams as well. There are freebies. There's things that you can really begin dropping in, but having that information there already, again, provides a better picture for your teams to understand with what they're looking at as well. So with each of these appearance statuses that I have set for my footings and my structural foundations in this case, each contains a unique rule to them that allows me to understand the status, and that status could be translated to a status legend somewhere, whether if it's a document or somewhere where it's taped up on the job site trailer if we wanted to go that far. But essentially, is you double click into each of your footings or wherever you may have your special custom status applied. I'm not sure if you could see this from here, but I contain just a basic status of tracking for the footings and how they're being installed. So to go down, I have framed to start. I have poured, cured, and the idea for the workflow is to find discrepancies, to understand where our problem areas are at. So in cases where I need to apply a discrepancy to this footing, for example, let's just say footing was poured, it was up to be cured, but we then begin finding a honeycomb effect on one of the footings where that needs to be repaired. So as the field engineer, as I'm out there, I would need to grab that and provide that status. So as I change that custom status to a discrepancy, then the rule that applies to my coloring legend will then show against the model. So that in itself is a simple interaction. I could be on my iPad as well to then apply a stamp, again, using my stamps. And my stamps themselves, I can have stamps that are specific to this exercise. So I've created with what is a concrete sequence stamp. And by showing that, then I have my target, as everyone knows, and I select that stamp into the footing. Now, my issue's created. It's already contacting the correct person. My connection point is there as far as, all right, line of communication is open. Now we need to begin the effort of repair here. And so with that, I'll open up my issue tracker. I'll drop the necessary information. So again, I'm out on site. I have my iPad with me. I can take my attachment. So let me take my file, take my footing discrepancy, apply it. As you know, I'm adding that information via the status of the issue. I'm applying and I'm reaffirming that there is an issue that's going on here. And so that now with that, we do have our different types of custom statuses that also coincide with this. So we're also almost underlining the fact that we're not only applying a notification via the model as a visualized in its visualized form, but now we have the status of that issue as well as a way to track. So now we could say, well, we're moving ahead and we're just applying a discrepancy status across that as a way to then have that assigned to the correct person who's out. Maybe the self-perform team is in the project to then have them assigned to that issue itself. So I think you're beginning to see sort of that sequence, that line of communication that's beginning to happen just with those singled out issues. So in this point, we're sort of picking as we go based on the activity of what's going out on site and the individuals that are responsible for capturing that information as well, and with what needs to be brought back to Revizto. So with that, we then allow the process of communication to occur. That discrepancy is found. That discrepancy would then be shown as, that footing would be repaired via confirmation, again via file photo upload to the correct assignee. Once that status is done, then we can say it is as repaired. Then again, reaffirming that by also taking the iPad as well and uploading that information back to the issue to show that it is repaired until it ultimately can be brought back into its sequence again. So again, double clicking, being able to show that, okay, discrepancy is done. And so we want to go ahead and show it as a cured status. And Revizto will then reflect that as well. Oops, let me do discrepancy, no. There we go. And so then Revizto will then be able to show, across the model via how we want to access that appearance of what's our current condition based on site. Additionally to that, you do have additional ways to communicate as well. What are things that we can begin to reinforce around the notification of this issue as well. So we have a Revizto notification via the issue and the person responsible. But if we need to open this up now because our team is revolving around Revizto and needs ways to enter Revizto, then even per the footing or per my view, I can generate a QR code via the footing itself. It does not have to be down to the individual footing. I can take this view as well, move back to my footing sequence top down, and still do the same thing, generate QR code, my current view, as a way to access into Revizto as well. So not only are you applying, the workflow, but via the QR codes in connection with custom statuses, as well as the model. We're doing 3 parts here, but the ability to bring that individual jump them into the workflow without trying to find the appearance template. What's the right one? What do I need to begin selecting? And we can simply say it's already set up. Here's the QR code to hand off. This is how you need to access the information and start. Everything from there would be then training by us. All right, and then moving into and one thing too, based on custom statuses that you'll find is that information as you create it is also reportable. It becomes its own selection within the reports as well. So just something to drop in. You're not sort of cutting yourself off there if you're creating something new as well. There you go. There's my slide. All right, so that was a simple approach. Now you're going to have more complex approach here with my brother Alex shortly. That's based off of a equipment tracking lifecycle.
So not too far off from what David was presenting on. I think it's going to follow a similar process of us starting in our object properties, moving into those search sets appearances, and then finally into our issue tracker with some custom statuses, but taking a different approach with equipment tracking itself. So there's a number of different teams that are involved in this whole process, starting from when we're purchasing the equipment from the pre-con phase into our project management, making sure all the delivery is scheduled correctly, and then field teams with the installation of that equipment itself. So what do the current processes look like for even maintaining equipment tracking right now? Just to name a few, we've got our purchasing schedules, MEP equipment tracking logs when they hit the project management stage, and then getting into installation checklists, and then even into QA/QC inspection logs. So throughout this process, it's a lot of different spreadsheets, maybe some different applications, but from what you saw earlier, it can start looking quite disorganized pretty quickly. And if you're able to organize this type of data throughout, multiple different types of spreadsheets, I commend you. You're a lot more organized than I. But even still, if this information is all organized, it's still siloed data. It's not one central location that we're pulling all this information from. And just to remind you, this is just for equipment tracking, by the way. We're not even moving into all the other stages of construction. So what can we use Revizto, and where are our objectives with how to leverage a Revizto process to equipment tracking? Well, simply we want to provide exposure throughout this whole process, and we're going to do that in key 3 ways of, I think, what I believe is the core foundation of Revizto. So making sure it's in a single platform to reference all this data, having visualization of the data, and then accountability with issue tracking. So not different from what we're using Revizto for coordination. We're just applying it to different teams throughout the process of construction. So before we get into the live workflow here, I want to kind of hit on some similar items that David was going through, but just kind of lay out the path we're going to take. So we're going to start at those custom object properties, making equipment tracking property sets, and deriving them into a purchase, to arrival, to installed, and if that equipment may have received damage going into install. And then we're going to bring that data into that visualization utilizing appearance templates that we're going to create equipment tracking based on just all of our equipment throughout our project, installation tracking templates, and then whether or not we have damaged equipment out on site. And then we're going to hit that accountability stage, that issue tracker, creating a single stamp for equipment damage, item damage, damage in general. It's going to follow a similar process of how we're going to create those custom statuses from those open in progress, solved, and closed, and making them something more bespoke, open, investigation, remediation to repaired. So let's hop right into it. So where I'm going to start is just selecting one of my pieces of equipment, just to start seeing some of the properties that got added into our project. So I'll click on this RTU, double click into our properties, and then we can start seeing our list of custom properties within our equipment objects. So here we have, where we're tracking this item. We've got our purchase dates, arrival dates, installed. So this will be the basis of where we begin our workflow and trying to understand where we want to take equipment tracking on a particular project. And then we're going to create search sets to start aggregating all of this data together. So equipment tracking has its own folder, and then we can start looking at each of these items, making sure we have selections based on all of them, damaged equipment, installed equipment, and having that highlighted content, seeing how many number of objects those are going to feed us. And then into the appearances, we're utilizing all of these search sets that we're creating. And then we have a set templates that our team can start looking through. So all MEP equipment throughout the project. What does that look like? Well, here we have all of our data. Let me quickly unload the scan here. So we can really understand very quickly of what items are, even throughout our job, how can we highlight them, which items are installed. We'll be able to visually inspect and understand if we double click our properties open again, just like David was doing in his earlier presentation. As long as we're adding a date value here, and it could be any custom date, then our appearance is going to reflect accordingly. And then we get into damage. So any items that got marked with equipment damage, we can quickly select those utilizing that search set we created. So we have a quick visualization of those hot items in a project that we need to take a second look at. So by opening up my search sets once again, I can quickly hit my damaged equipment search set. And then from here, we're going to get into that accountability phase of making each of the pieces of equipment have its own unique stamp. So we'll pull open our selection inspector. We've got currently 5 items marked with equipment damage via our object property. We'll select them all, create our multi-stamp, apply our damage stamp, and we're going to create 5 unique stamps for each of those cases. Inside of our template for damage, I already applied our issue type. So we're going to have those unique custom properties associated with each of these issues in the project. So we can start moving between, all right, so we have an open item for damage. This is going to be that to-do item for, whether that be a field coordinator or QA/QC individual. We can start moving it into investigation of what was the sole reason for the damage. Have that start populating images into our issue tracker of that damage, and then into remediation of what the repair looked like. Maybe we start bringing in more documents into our issue chat to understand exactly what list of items need to get done to remediate this piece of equipment. And then finally, moving it into compared, this will be our complete issue status that will complete out the workflow. So I hope both of these ideas that David and I kind of went through live kind of wet the palate a little bit, have your, your own ideas kind of thinking of how you could utilize it within your own organizations. Um, we'll move back into a presentation.
While Alex is moving in the presentation as well, there is sort of a moment to sort of reflect as well with these custom statuses. If you see me on the floor, I've been mentioning this to you a little bit as well. And the issue tracker now with custom statuses is not reactionary as far as the current status of the issue. It is now a checklist. And so if it's to the point where you have a moment of divergence, right? You are deciding whether if you should go as far as applying status to the model in a color that's with a custom status, and instead could it just be as good enough as the issues to start, and can I just add my issues as a way to track that item instead? As long as you're creating the stamp and it has the model object associated to it, then it's just as good to use as a way to track instead as well. So there's always that point where you can say, if that's too much to chew for your field teams, you can always just then say custom statuses is the way to start and eventually get to actual model status of objects as well.
And then getting into just overall, there was a lot of different steps we hit on with visualization of data, entering the data into properties. So we hit on a number of things that we kind of want to highlight here as best practices and tips. In our examples, particularly we hit on viewpoints by system and task. We did search sets by each team, so equipment tracking, concrete tracking, and then appearance templates by task as well. So there's a number of different ways we can utilize and understand, where we want to point this information to our particular teams we're trying to engage inside of Revizto. But ultimately, we want to just understand who our audience is, making sure our information is clear and concise. We've got some pretty basic ones in here too. Just overall model management. Make sure you have clean models. You don't want, overlays and just model trash inside of your models. You want to make sure that it is simple, that everybody can understand what's inside of your project in Revizto.
Yeah, to add to that as well, if any of you here have worked with myself or Alex or any of other CS team members, this is sort of a point where if we have new engagement, that's outside of just the normal engagement we've been working with you on regular basis, as you know. These are the points where we start to think as far as, well, if we're going to get someone new involved, what is the extra step that we have to make viewpoints by level? Do we have to create viewpoints with the 2D overlays already there, saving the step of moving into the 2D sheets and applying the overlay themselves? It's simple to normal users, but at the same time, it goes a long way for other individuals as well. And sort of keeping that mentality is, if you want to take that extra step to set your project up to really provide a path of where our live workflows went, this is sort of the start. So this is, if you can have a baseline of what seems important to you within this list, or even all of them, this again goes a long way for further engagement as well. I think this goes without saying, but at the same time, to move the rest of your project team into Revizto as a way to begin communicating. And with this was kind of a quick one, kind of a fun one as well. This was I was at the expo booth, if everyone saw, and had the custom statuses open. So this is a list of examples that I myself made, as well as other attendees here, as well, as far as ideas to begin really understanding what is the next. Really just, lack of a better word, just ideas of what you can apply as custom statuses for your issues that you're using to create as well, whether if it's design-related statuses, field-related statuses, even statuses that are very straightforward. Again, I've been saying this all day today, using statuses as a way to communicate very clearly of where issues are at as well. It could be an issue status that says, something represents waste of my time, BS issue, not an RFI. It could be anything that's just more straightforward. It keeps us light, but at the same time keeps everybody on the same page is really important here. So, but that's sort of where we're going to go next. But to sort of backtrack a little bit here as well, we didn't mention this in the beginning, but for those who have attended, we have also a gift from our project for you as well. And we have in our project a very complex list of stamps that should include all phases of a project, all phases of all that includes all your departments within your organization, and external stakeholders as well. So that is a blueprint that what we can provide to you here as a way to give you an understanding of where's the full realm of involvement inside Revizto, and where do you want to start picking and piecing things away on what's right for you. So that will be available via the RevUp app. Please log in on the desktop version so you can have direct access to that file and just download it to your C drive. This will be a part one. I've asked, will custom statuses be included in that? While custom statuses can be exported, I mean, I was given 10 minutes from before the presentation, and I'm just like, maybe, no, maybe next year. But yes, that is also a possibility as well.
And just another thing onto that. I mean, these are just all beginning ideas. Obviously, until you engage those teams and show them how we can start using stamps and different workflows inside of Revizto, they're gonna create their own tailored needs, and that's gonna be the best for your own organization. We just got to show them the path and that it's possible. Yeah, we had a little too much fun with this. Yeah. All right, open to questions. Oh.
Yes, sir.
Is the custom status automated in any way?
The custom status is automated in any way. It is just by manual push right now. Yep. So that's good because it would be more of a specific exercise for that individual, whether if it's someone in VDC or a field engineer type person that has been trained on that exercise.
So just like how you can change like a stamp category in an issue, you'll be able to change the issue type, which will give you your custom statuses for another type of workflow.
Mm-hmm.
But when you change a status, it will close an issue, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, you more into custom statuses as well. Just to mention, you can apply rules because custom statuses are still looking for the original older in progress solved and closed. And so if you assign a custom status to that closed category, then that what forces the issue to close itself. So you just have to map the process out, essentially. So yes, question?
Technical question. So the custom statuses are connected to the stamp of the issue type, right? So you're not going to see every status of the project for every issue.
The custom status is if the custom status is associated to the workflow or of the issue, correct? So yes. So those are with what is called workflows, and within those workflows are the statuses to what you would like to assign to that issue. So whether it can be created at the stamp template field within the application and have those custom statuses already assigned ahead of time. So if someone selects it and creates a stamp, that custom workflow or custom status will be associated to it.
Yes. I saw as you're changing the status, it's keeping like the log of it's moving from this to this, but is that all date and timestamps?
Yes. Yep, that would be considered as issue updates still in the reporting section. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we've already got really established like reporting, tracking, issue workflows that are all Procore based. So is there any kind of bi-directional workflow as if you're pushing these items out to Procore and changing them in that way and letting them push back?
My mind is pointing towards our issue API. Have you explored that yet? No? I would say that would be the first route to explore as far as extracting our API issue data as issues and as if it can live within Procore, or right now would be most use cases Power BI from what we've heard.
One of the workflows that we've done is that there's add-ins, and so we work in
multiple different, like, so we have Navis that we still use on different projects, and now we bought into Revizto, so we use that internally. We're a subcontractor, and some of the GCs might be using Navis or whatever. They'll be issuing BIM tracks or pro code issues, and now these ACC issues. Yeah, so I'll open up Navis, and now we have add-ins in Navis that can, Revizto 5 add-in, that can push to Revizto, which is great, but I'm being told that there's nothing that takes it back to those other things, and that's maybe something that we can look into to do that.
We can. My mind is pointing towards the export IFC option, but it's not issue information. So you'd have to replicate that again in Navisworks, which I don't know, maybe too many steps in the process, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So I know the custom statuses has everyone thinking for the most part, and so it's sort of what I left everyone at as I've spoken to them. But as an add-on to our templates as well, the templatized statuses will be a thing to come as well. So expect that, not from us, but most likely from Jason, or an official announcement from Revizto, us as a group. So it may come in chunks, but for us, we plan to make sure that you guys get the stamps. And I don't know how many stamps are in there, you think?
We try to think of a lot of different teams here as a whole. So I think there's probably like 50 or 60 stamps.
Yeah, 60 stamps or so within each category that's within here as well. So it gives you an idea, and this is directly from us, our team, as far as engagement that we've seen on many users within. Say we have a few worldwide users as well in their opinions to share as far as the issues that they are creating. And with what we thought would be most applicable for most cases here. So, you'll get this here once it's on the RevUp app, and that'll be our follow-up conversations with you. What do you think?
Thank you, everybody.